And we are live. It is Thursday. It is 1 o'clock. It is 30 with Karen and Justin. And we have a very special guest today. As usual, I think all of our guests are special. So I want to preface with that. We don't choose lightly. We make sure we bring good people every week. Today we're joined by Chris Carter, who's a Burlington entrepreneur, a community builder, and a candidate for Ward 4 City Regional Councillor. He's had more than 25 years of community leadership experience and is best probably known more recently as one of the guys that runs the Burlington Dads, an organization that's raised more than $1 million for local charities. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Chris's connection to Burlington, the work he's done in the community, and why he's decided to run for Ward 4. So, Chris, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate your time. Obviously, you've done some cool things. And kind of starting with when we met, it was through the Burlington Dads. And that's a lot of my connections nowadays because of how powerful that Facebook page has become and how big it is. I know it was started by other people way back in the day. You guys kind of took the reins of it a little while back. I'm just curious about like what that ride has been like because of how interesting that Facebook page has become in this community.
Yeah, love that question. Thanks for the intro too, man. Awesome.
No worries.
Yeah, we so for sure, I'm very quick to say that the group is the biggest team effort I've ever been a part of. It's certainly not one guy or even a small handful of guys. It's guys like you. It's guys that came before me. And to answer your question too, it actually started as just a Facebook group, originally registered as Burlington Daddies. That's what it started as. Fun fact, and some amazing people early on. Obviously, a lot of people know Renee. He was integral in all of it, and brought together a really simple concept, which was let's get together. Let's make sure that we're supporting each other. If you need a tool, if you need a hand, maybe you know a great plumber, electrician. Let's talk about it and let's make sure that we're working together and building a sense of community. And then it started with a couple dozen and then a couple hundred. And we started to look at it and said, this has got some momentum to it because it had all the makings with the right grassroots scenarios, right? Everybody was doing it for the right reasons, still to this day. And now we're almost 14 years past that point. Nobody has made a dollar off of the group. No admin, no moderator, nobody, because everybody was doing it for the right reasons. It was community. And that just snowballed. We initially had an event called the Founding Fathers, which was when we started to kind of organize and brought together a little bit of money for the first time. We asked guys to contribute, and in return, they got a Burlington Dads ball cap. It was a camo hat. If you ever see a camo hat walking around,
I
that's an
have one,
OG.
just so you know,
Yeah,
I
you
have
do.
one.
Yeah, you do. And came with a gold card as well too. And the gold card, I remember I was walking around. We were all walking around talking to businesses, saying, would you give a little discount, or would you want to say hello to our members, or get involved? And it started to take off. And the businesses have been such a big part of that success. Like in your intro, you said, I've raised over $1 million. Like that doesn't happen without the support of our business community. So that's been a success story all around. And like you mentioned in your intro too, with the referrals and the networking and how we've really come together to support each other because simply put, the group is everybody has some commonalities, and the commonalities are they either live or work in Burlington, which is one of
Mm,
the greatest cities in the world, and
hmm.
they're a dad. So as soon as you can kind of, look a guy in the eye and say, we've at least got those two things in common, you're pretty close to having a great relationship. And that has, for the guys who have treated each other really well, certainly the businesses that have treated, their clients and fellow BDs really well, it's been an amazing opportunity for everybody. And yeah, just keeps growing.
Well, and I certainly understand now that it's like you don't walk around Burlington very far without seeing a sticker in a window or a sweater on a dad or a hat on a dad across Burlington everywhere. Like you can see this stuff everywhere on the back of a car, a bumper sticker. So it's become quite a phenomenon to the point of, if I'm not mistaken, you've had other groups reach out to you guys like, hey, how do we do this in our town? If I'm not like,
Yeah.
is that something that's happened?
We 100%, yeah, and I mean, even as close as the Oakville dads, good
Right.
friends of ours, and Jeremy and the boys, like, early on, of course, Jeremy was a Burlington dad, right? So he saw the momentum of the group, and we've continued to have a very collaborative relationship because it just, there's like, if somebody asked me, what is the key to success? Like, how did this group separate itself from so many other online communities? And the answer is, early on, we just decided it was a rule that you can't be a jerk.
That's pretty
That's it,
simple.
man. Like,
Don't be
it's
a dick.
simple,
We're
but
good.
like, it's again, that's not overly common on the internet. Like, there are places where if you want to be vulnerable and you put your hand up asking for help, you're gonna get roasted. And
Hmm.
we're never that space, man. Even still to today, like, if we have guys that are acting up, and listen, there's guys that are going through it. So we have to have empathy for those men, and we got to make sure that we do our best to take care of them. But the sidebar conversation is, hey, can't be a jerk. Like, just remember that, right? We're going to have a little empathy, we're going to listen, we're going to try and it doesn't work every time. There's some guys that's just not a fit. That's just
Hmm.
not how they like to operate, and listen, that's okay too, man. You're never going to appease everybody, but what we've done is, in sticking to that principle and really doing it for the right reasons, we've built a super strong community, and obviously you're a big part of that.
Yeah, and I mean every event you see that goes out becomes successful, and it's just become a thing where it's knocking them up, it's putting them up and knocking them down every time. It seems like you've done the right things every step of the way. As far as I can tell, you've made Renee and the leaders proud of what you've done, what they started, and I appreciate the support. And I can say that I've taken advantage of some of that support in many different ways throughout the group and out the years that I've been involved. So yeah, if you're a dad out there, if you live in Burlington, even if you live in the surrounding areas, quite frankly, and you're looking for a space, this isn't terrible. This is a great space. Um, let's shift a little bit to your sort of business side, because we were just talking before a little bit about AI and a little bit about some of the future of the world. You've been in business in general for a long time. I know you had a construction business back in the day. You flipped homes and various different things, which is in very close alignment with my world as well. Um, you know, what has your background taught you about what needs to happen in a community like Burlington? And I'm kind of shifting, I'm easing this into the Ward 4 counselor thing. Um, and what is required to run a city effectively in today's world? What sort of changes are we looking to kind of make here in this city in general?
Yeah, and I think so. I'll dovetail that out of the Burlington Dads discussion, because when I mentioned the business community, what's been so awesome about that is it's enabled me to see what works and what doesn't work. And it
Sure.
also enables me to hear from people, right? Like, if you think about the numbers today, we're moderating a group with 7,000 families in it. So that means you've got 7,000 points of view, commentary, what's working,
Mm-hmm.
what's not
Mm-hmm.
working. So the amount of insights that we can get into this city, and have been getting for many years, is
Sure.
second to none. Your front row seat. Like, you couldn't possibly pull for better information than
100% I
what
agree with
we
that. Yep.
all we all anybody in the group has a front row seat to, if they're participating. So,
Mm-hmm.
in business, yes, I've been very fortunate to have some awesome success, and blessed for that. Heck of a ride. Really quick to say, I've also had failures too, and you're going to learn way more from the failures than you are from the victories. That's just what it is. And the failures will also teach you too how to check your ego. They'll
Mm.
teach you that you are certainly no better than anyone else. That's a wonderful lesson to have when you're a younger guy. And then, how does that kind of now dovetail into my next chapter? Well, business is good. Like, I'm very happy doing what I do. I mean, we talked a little before the camera started just about, some of my day to day. And yes, we've got a successful AI consulting business, and I put a ton of time into that. And we've got a podcast that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit.
Sure.
But what is leading up to this next chapter for me is a lot of what I have been doing for decades now is very community focused. And I think when you can have the for-profit experience and the not-for-profit experience, that's going to give you a pretty holistic view of what works and doesn't work inside your city. It's also enabled me to grow a network. It's
Mm.
a network you have through Burlington Dads, but then it's also because I'm one of the leaders of Burlington Dads. We get invited to all the ribbon cuttings. We're active in the chamber as chamber members. So we're going to all of these things, and I've got a front row seat to it. And I've been so lucky to have relationships with our existing city councilors, past, our mayor, past. And what that's enabled me to do is just kind of see that, hey, maybe I have a skill set here that I can do what I love doing most, which is supporting community and participating, but do it in a more meaningful way and do it on the public side of things. So I'm super excited about it. I would encourage anybody who's listening to this or considering who to vote for in the upcoming municipal election in October, specific for Ward 4. I put forward my resume, and you can't fake those receipts.
I 100% agree. I love the receipts. You mentioned earlier the jerk rule, and I think, when you think politics nowadays, there's a confluence between there's a lot of vitriol out there. There's a lot of people that would not want to step into that forum because of it. You look online and you immediately you're getting lambasted for one thing or another. You've said it already. You've said you can't make everyone happy in a group of people. It just is what it is. It's kind of the nature of things. And because there's different personalities and things. What, in your mind, stepping from Burlington Dads, being very charitable and all the things that you've done and your businesses that you've run that have become successful, what is it in your brain that's like, you know what, going to this next level makes sense for me, considering the nature of politics in the moment that we're in right now? And I know municipal politics is probably not as crazy as obviously federal and whatnot, but there's still a lot of stuff going on and a lot of people that are angry out there. And you're stepping straight into that gunfire. What does that feel like? And
Yeah.
what does that decision look like with your family?
Yeah, so it is a family decision for sure.
Of
I
course. Yeah.
spoke to my wife about this for many months before we decided that this was the next right chapter for me. So I'll tell a story about when I realized purpose and created more meaning in my life. And it recently was on the best example of that was recently on the podcast. So when we started Shit My Dad Taught Me about a year and a half ago, we were really forward, both myself and my co-host Jamie, who you know well, were really forward about men's mental health. Because we saw not only what that was doing in the Burlington Dads group, but I had been working both as volunteer and then board member and then chairman of a mental health agency. And I've just always been passionate about it because I think that's one of those things where we just need to lean in and help each other and create more resources and more pathways to care and just super, I'm very invested in mental health. Because we were talking about it so openly on the internet, you're not going to get everybody's approval on that. And you had a lot of guys saying, walk it off. And I
Yeah.
would never talk about my feelings. And, my answer to that is if that's working for you, then God bless.
Mhm.
Great. For a lot of guys, that doesn't work. And this is what I mean when I say pathways. Maybe for some guys, having a peer group, having somebody they can talk to, maybe it is medication, maybe it's something more holistic. Like all of those are pathways to care. And we all have a duty to take care of ourselves because that makes us better people. It makes us better dads. It makes us better neighbors, makes us better, workers. Like it benefits everything when we're taking care of ourselves. So we were getting a lot of hate online about it, and I just took a hard line, and I'm like, no, like I'm always going to want to be open and create safe space. It's a non-negotiable for me.
Fair.
So Jamie and I were in our office on Brant Street. It was about 3 months into the podcast, figuring out if we want to do this and keep scaling it, because again, walking into the fire a little bit on this. And we got a knock on the door, and it was a gentleman who was on his way down to the lake to do something harmful to himself. He stopped in here because he knew about the podcast. He saw the Burlington Dads logo on the door, and he said, I don't know if you can help, but I know I need help.
What?
So we let him in that day. We were lucky enough to be able to connect him to the right services at the right time, and he is thriving today. So when that happened, that was all of the validation I will ever need to continue to fight because that's one life and I can point to it. And I know there are others you've seen them in the group, guys who need a hand at the right time and what that can do. So yeah, I don't mind walking into the fire on things I'm passionate about, and mental health is one of them, and my city where I live and where my kids grow up is another one. So we did have the conversation, my wife and I, and we just decided that, this might be something I'm built for.
That is, I've just had goosebumps for the last 2 minutes of this conversation. That's just an incredible story. I mean, talk about life changing in that moment for both or you and Jamie, obviously, and as well as the other gentleman that was involved in that conversation. That is amazing. So on the heels of that, okay, let's talk about the podcast a little bit. Um, where did that idea come from, and what was the purpose of like what is the purpose of the podcast in order for you to keep that message going?
Yeah, so we were years into Burlington Dads, and I remember looking around, and it was actually at one of our events, and I was like, there's hundreds of people here, and you look around the room, and you got guys that are in the trades, you got guys that are billionaires with a B, you've got guys who look really, really happy, and you got great dads, and you got all of these people around the room, and I'm like, what's like, there is so much, call it content, call it wisdom in this room. What could we do to kind of bring that out and put that forward? So maybe there is something here where we can have better conversations about what it is to be a dad, and what it is to be a good dad, and be intentional about being a dad, and these guys who have figured out how to be super successful at work and then be super successful at home. Like, how do you do that? So that is literally the antithesis of shit my dad taught me. It was, what are the things that, and dad in the name is really a collective. It's all of us. Like, it's not about me. It's not about my co-host Jamie. It's about, what are the things that dads have taught you that have helped you in life. So our job is, both myself and Jamie, we just show up and we listen way more than we talk. Our job is to curate the content. It's not to, although we'll inject a few things that have worked for us here and there, but it's really about the guest. It's really about how did they figure out the balance in their life, what's working, what's not working. And fast forward to today, we're 62 episodes in the can now, and we have been blessed to have conversations with people that I now get to call friends, including, Doug Gilmore and Rick the Temp Campanelli and Ron
Mm.
Foxcroft and Dean McDermott, and like just all of these great people, and people, not just dads. We've had a lot of women on the show as well too, because equally as important is, what did your dad teach you, right? So as a daughter, what did you see? Or as a wife now, what's working in that paternal role in your house? So it's just really created interesting conversation around what it is to be a good dad.
I love the idea because I mean, all of us are a product of where we came from, right? And we have the knowledge. How many times have we said to ourselves, "Oh man, I'm sounding like my dad every day," more
Yeah.
and more every day. And so it's like, and it's hilarious because we exude what it is we were brought up as. We didn't know anything until mom and dad stepped in and said, "Here's what you're going to be," and then you then created that into the thing that you're going to be, and it's an evolution of the previous model of your family, right? You're an evolution of the last one, and so on and so forth. And you can only hope that obviously your kids are the better evolution of you, right?
And I think too that there is this groundswell right now of young men that are looking for guidance,
hundred
inspiration,
percent.
and like, where do they go for that? Like right now,
You
you've
know
got
what, man? They're
these.
not finding it at home as much. It's on here. And that's the hardest part about life right now,
Well,
right?
and the guys on there that own that algorithm are the ones that are flexing hypercars and are being alpha and are being misogynistic and like,
Mm.
there that is. And again, if it works for somebody, if they like that content, that's great, man. It isn't about just creating one solution. Our solution is, hey, it's really great to be a dad. And like, you know, uh, bro, I've got the New Balances and they have grass stains on them, and I'm really good at barbecuing. And like, I just lean into that because, it brings me a lot of joy. And what I've found in life is like, there is a real paternal calling for most men to be an awesome dad. And define dad however you want. That's not us to dictate how or where or when. It's just like, the number one thing that if I was going to summarize the 62 episodes of Shit My Dad Taught Me that we've filmed, the number one thing I hear again and again is show up. That's it. The dads who are extremely loved and do a great job, they show up. When it's hard, when they're tired, when it's been a crazy long day, they still show up, and they still, maybe they're not at their best, but they show up. And man, that's so much of just being a good dad. And the second thing to that is just be intentional. Like, let your kids know you love them. Let your kids
So,
know you
so
want to hang out.
to wrap all these little sort of elements into one piece, I've shared this story online before. A couple of years ago, I went through some pretty serious mental health issues. And one of the things, it wasn't knocking on the Burlington Dads door necessarily that kept me going, but one of the things that kept me above ground today is the background thought process in my head about the impact on my children. And genuinely speaking, like my brain is wired in such a way that all I keep thinking about, I remember doing a 150-kilometer race, which I did several, like 15 years ago when I was much younger. And I'm actually considering doing it again, just to throw that out there, trying to get
Love
it in the universe so that I can get my head back around it because I need some work. But I did this race. And at the end of the race, as we're coming down to the last, 20, 30 kilometers on a bike, I'm pumping the pedals and just going along, and I'm dying. I'm dying. It's rough. You're in the wilderness. It's 24 hours. You haven't slept. It's crazy. And I just remember the cadence of my pedal pushes was for my kids, for my kids,
it.
for my kids. And the mindset I had was, if I don't finish this, what are my kids going to say? And I remember going through some of my mental health challenges, and in the back of my brain, that for my kids popped up a few times. It was like, oh, wait a second. If I do this, how does that benefit my kids? Okay, maybe there's a great insurance policy. Maybe they'll be fine there. But genuinely speaking, what's more valuable in their life? A bunch of money or me being the dad that I could be? Genuinely, just to get a little raw here.
Yeah. So I love it, man.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing. I think
Yeah.
like one of the things I'll tell you is, so we've had guests on the show whose fathers have committed suicide. I have friends who have lost friends, brothers, fathers. The one thing that seems to be true in all of those scenarios is that pain that you're feeling in the moment, it isn't an end. What
Mm,
happens is when you do something like that, it multiplies. And
mhm.
do you know who holds the burden of all of that? It's
Everybody else.
everybody else.
Hmm.
So you take a problem and you multiply it and you give it to everybody else. So the right thing to do is to do the work, man. Get the help. There's lots of it out there. And just, it's not easy. Like I speak from experience on all of this, but the right thing to do is just to do the work. And sometimes it is that, like your physical challenge you mentioned, having a goal, a change, an ambition. Like there
Mm.
are ways to do it, and there's lots of great people out there that sincerely want and can help.
And that's the thing, is the help you're getting is relieving some of the burden, right?
Mhm.
And that's the biggest fact I found. And one of the biggest things someone said to me once, I said, what life feels like right now is I'm climbing this mountain and I see the top, but I just don't know that I'm ever going to get there. And every time I go up another hill, the top seems to be a little higher. And this person turned around and said to me, the lie that you're telling yourself is that there is a peak.
Hmm. Yeah,
The peak
wholeheartedly.
comes when you die.
Yeah.
In the meantime, why not take some of the rocks that are in your backpack
Mm.
and leave them here so you can go forward in a better way? And I was like, that one 30-second conversation blew my mind.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
And
what this is. That's what
yeah.
the Burlington Dads is. That's what Nelson is for people out there in the
Oh,
world. Capillary wave.
you took the words out of my mouth. I was absolutely going to say on Nelson's, we've not only been lucky enough to work with Nelson, but he was on the podcast and he told that analogy about rocks in a backpack. And man,
Mm-hmm.
that hits. Uh,
Mm-hmm. It
yeah.
does. It does. So all of that to say, you've been building towards this government position, this counselor position, maybe unknowingly made the decision to go forward for Ward 4. What makes Ward 4 special to you?
Yeah, and I think what I've been building toward, like the reality of it is there's been a lot of momentum because it's I'm just passionate about it, right? And when you love something, be it your city, the people with you, or whatever, you're gonna do the work because it's the right thing to do. I hope my next chapter is Ward 4 City Councillor.
Sure.
I'm built for it. I'm working hard to earn trust and meet people and do what I can do to get my story out there. But what's next is I'm going to keep going. If I'm fortunate enough to get elected, awesome. If not, the community work will continue. Burlington Dads will grow. We're working hard on the podcast. We've got some exciting things coming up with that I can't yet talk about, but they're going to do big things. And then my charity work. Like what time's it now? It's 1:30. When we get off here, I've got to drive over to go see Shannon and everybody at Dare to Be Youth. I also give my time to other organizations, and I'm just going to keep going, man, because the more we can put in, the more we get out. It
Mm.
works like that.
Um, is what is it about Ward 4 though? Is it like you live in Ward 4? Obviously, that's step
Yeah.
one. But what has Ward 4 given back to you? What does that area of Burlington mean to you as a community? You've raised your kids there. Is there anything else
Yep.
that you can bring to us that to show us what it means to you to be a Ward 4 resident?
Yeah, so for sure, grew up in Burlington and grew up just off of Appleby Line. I now live just on the other side of Appleby Line, close to Nelson. My wife and I, when we sold our business in 2019, we had a discussion about, what did life look like? Because we've got two young daughters. They're now 8 and 10, but of course they were younger then. What does life look like? What do we want to provide for them? And we made a list, and it had things like school, and it had things like friends, and it had things like activities, and just where could you possibly, like, if you had a moment to really be intentional, where would you want to live? And we looked everywhere and just kept coming back to either Longmore or Short Acres. And we looked at a bunch of houses in both of those communities. We ended up finding a perfect house for us, which is just on the Longmore side, so just north of New Street. And we had the ability to just kind of put down roots, and we said, that's it. That's the forever house. My kids are going to have to figure out what to do with that house one day. But for now, it's going to be the house that they grow up in, and we've been living there for years, and we're going to live there for years because it has everything. Like
Mm.
we are so blessed to live in this city. Like we sometimes on the podcast, it gets referred to as the Burlington bubble. Like, listen,
Agreed.
we've got some work to do here. It ain't perfect, but man, are we blessed to live here, and man, are we blessed to have the type of environment that we do. Like, I have, so both of my sisters, I have twin sisters, both of them live within walking distance of our house, and now they've each got two kids respectively. So,
Cool.
we've got cousins and friends and family. Our charity work is all here. Burlington Dads, like it means everything to me. Ward 4 and Burlington, that's everything.
You've spoken about in the past about things like, well, you call it thoughtful growth. What does that mean in Ward 4?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that come with that. I mean, we have to be very, very mindful of development. We have to be extremely mindful of how we're using these communities and our land. There's been some hot button topics around that. I did a piece on the data center that came up. Accessory dwelling units is coming up a lot,
Mm-hmm.
because those neighborhoods that I mentioned, and add Roseland to that list as well too. There's so much character there, and they are such unique communities. What I can't stand is when government makes broad stroke decisions. And an example of that is they'll just take a big map and they'll draw a square on it, and they'll say, okay, everybody in that square can do this. Well,
Mm.
that's not good planning, right? Good planning is looking at it application by application to see what's appropriate, to see what not only do our existing, bylaws and all of our permitting require or allow, but looking at it on a case by case basis. And we just need to do that to be, proactive. And it's not just what do you do with the property; it's what do you do with the infrastructure around it. We need to be mindful of traffic. Like anybody who lives in Burlington will tell you, north south on Appleby Quincy or Walker's or Guelph is just a zoo at times.
Mhm.
And we need to be more mindful of some of our improvement projects as well too. Like when we close laneways, how we close laneways, how we hold all of our subcontractors responsible to a schedule so that things
Mhm.
aren't running late. Like there's, I just did a featured piece on the Tuck Bridge running along New Street there. That
I know
project
it
has
well.
and it's been dormant. Like if you look at it, from what I can tell, and again, I've got the same visibility currently as just a citizen. I have the same visibility that you do, but I mean, it's been dormant for months,
Mhm.
and there's two lanes closed while it's been dormant. So it just there's things like that where it is attention to detail. It is being mindful of things, and it does come down to planning. And what's great about Burlington is we have an incredible city hall filled with incredible staff. We just need people to come in and have the energy and the work ethic to connect these real world issues with city hall and make sure that the work is getting done. And I'm really good at that.
We can see that already because you're already doing that in the world. So that's cool. Traffic and road safety tend to be a bit of a concern right now. There's a lot of talk about e-scooters. Not that I want you to get into that stuff because that's a more of a provincial level thing. But at the end of the day, are there any practical changes that can be made in the city? Because I know they've started to change the bike lanes and things like that again. I'm finding it a little bit frustrating watching some of these changes. Where do you sit with that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so it absolutely needs to be on a case by case basis because what works in downtown is not going to work
Totally
running on Dundas. Like it's just
agreed. Yeah.
so it needs to be not some things do need to be provincial, but like when it comes to the municipal things, like what we're doing to enable these newer methods of transportation, it needs to be very specific to use case because like you mentioned, there are real congestion issues. There's real issues with how we use what physically is there, whether that is bike lanes or having different styles, roundabouts. Like there's just so much to be mindful of, and the planning has to be done to be thoughtful around that. I'll tell you, the traffic calming stuff that we look at specifically in Ward 4, like they've done some really awesome things there. Like there's laneway narrowing that happens all along the walking path, the bike path that runs east-west. Like
Mhm.
really well done, right? And they did it without speed bumps. It's just lane narrowing and
Yep.
signage. And so what that does is it creates the safety, but it still allows a lot of traffic flow. That's unique, and I think we need to have those kind of unique approaches as we look at new projects, and certainly as we're giving out new development permits.
Uh, Taxes have risen considerably in the city over the last little while. Where do you think the city could operate more efficiently without cutting the services that residents expect?
Yeah, so that's the balance for sure.
Mm.
And there's one other pillar of that too that we need to be mindful of, which is, we have a tax base that can be greatly improved if we are doing more economically. If we have the right businesses,
Mhm.
operating, opening, and contributing to the tax base, that will alleviate some of the property tax burden. For
Sure.
sure, we need to look at efficiencies. I think that my answer today and my answer going forward is the annual increases need to be consistent with inflation and nothing more. Because we do have the ability to control expenses and look at what we can do without a reduction of core services. I think there are some services that we need to be mindful of that we can save on, but at inflation, annual increases should for sure be the goal. And ideally, it's not even that. Like ideally, we get to a 0% because the last specifically 4 years have been very aggressive. So we need to
Mhm.
really dig in and figure out how we can keep property taxes in line.
I guess I'll sort of try to end it after this because we're running up against time and I don't want to take too much more of your time. One of the things that I think has been a big problem in politics recently is all this fake news and fake information coming out. Who do you believe? Who do what is real? How would you keep residents informed and involved after the election to make sure that those pathways of information are real and genuine and the right information?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've started doing is a segment called Ward 4 Daily on my Instagram and my Facebook. The idea behind that is to basically do something in real time. We're about 20 days into my August 1st till election commitment, which is a total of 87 episodes. But what I'm doing there is I'm doing it on the day, and it's entirely driven by community questions, comments, DMs that I get. I want to continue that because honestly, if I wasn't as involved in the business community and with Burlington Dads as I was, I would feel very disconnected from City Hall. I know there's a lot of people that are listening to this that have probably never voted in a municipal election. Like it's over half the people listening to this have never
Mm-hmm.
voted. Because I think some of that is them just feeling like they're not connected and feeling like they don't have a say. And if they do go vote, well, then where's the accountability on that? Like,
Mm.
if I ask the average resident in Burlington, like, hey, you're city councilor, they've been doing the job for 4 years. Tell me one thing that they've done.
Mm.
And that's not a knock on any of the city councilors, but that's just me going out and talking to people. They don't know because they see the services going on, but I don't think there's a real knowledge of, is that municipal, is that regional, is that provincial, like who is making the decision to deliver those services. So there's a huge opportunity for the right person to come in and say, hey, listen, Ward 4, here's how your money is being spent, and have that level of transparency and that level of accountability. Like, one of the reasons why I committed to do this every single day leading up to the election is because it's going to evolve that quickly before the election and certainly after the election. So, I would love to continue doing this after the election because, like, imagine if we got an amazing turnout in October and we set a record for the amount of people that voted because they felt like they had a voice, whether they vote for me or not, because they felt like they could do something about it. That would be a huge win for all of us. And then if the right person gets elected, continue that momentum, right? Like, hey guys,
Mm.
you're spending a lot of money. And by the way, this is where you live. So all of this matters. Here's the ROI on that vote. You voted for me and you got this. And that's the level of transparency and commitment I'll bring to the job.
Given the circumstances of the world, I think my biggest thing right now is just making sure the message gets out there that whether you think the power is there or not, getting out and voting is one of the most important things you can do as a citizen of a city, of a country, of a province, whatever. And your voice is heard, irrelevant of what you think. Your voice is heard,
Yeah.
right? And being a part of the discussion is important,
Yep.
And I really do believe like people like yourself getting out and doing this. Like we appreciate you coming and doing this show because it just shows people who you are and genuinely puts a good message out there to show people this is the guy. This isn't fluff. Like I'm not trying to softball it too much to make it so that, you're a real human being, right? And I think too many times we see these people on the news, we see the interviews on the news and they're on the news. They're not right here, And so I appreciate you coming to do this. I appreciate the effort you've put in over the years, the support you've given our community. And I just want to say thank you for that because it's, what I look at it like, the world is full of a lot of hate right now. And for people like
Mm.
you to be putting time and effort in to bring people together and to create a better life for others when it's not even your life that you're making better,
Yeah.
is fucking
Well,
fantastic.
I
I'm
listen,
allowed to swear. It's my show.
I appreciate you saying that, man, and it means a lot. I'm blessed to be able to do it. And the thing that I would say is like all of these ripples we're putting out, all this energy that we're putting out, maybe we're planting seeds that will grow trees that you and I'll never enjoy the shade under, but like it's our kids and it's our neighbors and it's everybody that is around us, right? So if we all do this and we all just show up and work hard and try and do the right thing as much as we can, like it's going to get better, man. Because there is that negativity, but like I'm not that guy. I am more than happy to look at the glass half full and understand what I can maybe help with and make peace with what I can't. And then yeah, and if you're lucky enough to have a little bit of opportunity to affect change, I think you should take it. Just like you're doing, just like you're, hosting conversations and putting it out into the world, like that matters too.
I hope so. I hope it makes a difference. And I hope people are informed by it, and I think that's really all I can ask. You know, I look at it like, if this is an opportunity for someone like you to get your message out, eh, that's all that matters to me, you know, because you're a good dude and I appreciate what you're doing. So,
Yeah, right back at you.
listen, it's been fun. We're just pushing up 30 minutes, actually more than 30 minutes, but that's okay. We've got a great guy here talking about some amazing things. So we're okay to go a little longer. Thank you for coming on. We will be following closely and, you know, hoping for your success. I don't live in your ward, so I can't vote for you. So I'm sorry, but
No, this is hey man, I appreciate it. And to anybody that's listening, I am super accessible. You can my website is chriscarterofficial.com. Email is info@chriscarterofficial.com. Instagram's a great place to connect. I'll be there every single day. My username there is @ChrisCarterBD, Burlington Dad.
love it. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks Chris for coming on, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.